Carl, first and foremost, I want to delve straight into this. Thank you so much for sparing some time to chat to Robbie and I. It is a massive night for boxing, and I'll kind of probably add to that. It's a massive night for Dubai, because I think it's fair to say that your bout upcoming this Saturday might just be the biggest boxing bout that Dubai has ever staged, ever hosted. It's exciting times for boxing. It's exciting times for this part of the world. How are you feeling heading in to your bout with Jamel Herring?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited about the fight. A history-making fight for myself, the chance to become a 3-weight world champion. The only Irish man to ever do it before. One of the only ever British fighters to do it before. You join an elite list of fighters that has done that. And the fact that I think this is Dubai's first ever world title fight, I just found that out, didn't realize. So it's another bit of history, becoming the first ever world champion to fight out of Dubai, or have a fight in Dubai. It's all just adding up, and it's a massive legacy defining fight for me, and I'm really up for it.
This fight, the way it came together, I know it was pushed back a little bit, Carl. I think it was initially scheduled for late last year, and Dubai was not initially the location for the fight. How has it been, obviously rejigging your schedule, coming out here, continuing your training camp? Because obviously these training camps are punishing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are punishing, but I think I've got a right balance in how I approach training camps and what I do while I'm in a training camp. It's been good to get out here. I've been out here now this is my 2nd week. So I'm well used to the heat and the time difference, and I'm used to my surroundings. Jamel Herring, on the other hand, came from a greater time difference. I think the time difference from where he trains to Dubai is 11 hours, and he just arrived in on Saturday night. So I think that's a mistake on their behalf. He should have been in a lot earlier. But I'm really enjoying it here. It's almost normal. Like, apart, you have to walk about with a mask on, but you can do whatever you want. You can go and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee down the street. You can walk about with a nice bit of sunshine on your back. And I'm feeling really good.
Carl, what does it tell you that Jamel and his team arrived on Saturday? You've said it there. You would have advised them to come in earlier. Do you take that as a slight against you, that they're perhaps taking you a little bit lightly ahead of this fight?
I don't know. It could be that. I don't want to read too much into it, but I'm kind of thinking that I don't know. I don't know why. I just think it's a mistake. Like, they should have been out here before I was out here even. And I'm out here because I want to win the fight, and I've got out with plenty of time to spare because I want to win the fight. I don't want to be away from my family. I don't want to be away from my wife and kids, but I'm doing it and making these sacrifices because I want to win. Herring just, I think with getting out here so late, I don't know. Does he have one foot out the door already? He's managing a lot of fighters already. I think he's about 10 fighters he's managing. He was very negative and spoke about retirement in his last fight. I don't know.
He's got an interesting backstory, hasn't he, Carl? He did tours with the US Marines, I think, and actually didn't take his first pro fight till he was 27. Your first pro fight was obviously way back in 2009. Two sort of very different ways to approach a professional boxing career. But what do you know about him? What kind of tests do you imagine that he's going to pose on the fight night?
Well, he's a big guy. He's the biggest I've ever faced. He's shown in the past that he's been mentally very tough in his fights, but then again in his last fight, I don't think mentally he was that stronger. He kind of looked for a way out, I thought. He was a very good amateur. He boxed in the Olympics. He captained Team USA in London. Good fighter. He's a very good fighter, but I feel like I've beaten already better fighters than him. And if I continue to do what I've been doing in this training camp, the correct decisions I've been making in the gym and sparring, if I continue to do that and bring that with me into this fight, I'll win the fight. Like, I don't even doubt that in the slightest. I just feel like things are falling into place, and I'm going to have my hand raised at the end.
Yeah, Carl, give us an insight if you can. Robbie and I spoke to Luke Campbell not so long ago. He was over in these parts, and we sat down with Luke and we delved into the kind of psychology, if you will, of a boxer. You're now 34 years of age. You yourself have admitted quite recently that you don't see yourself fighting 5 fights from now, that perhaps your career is closing in on its final chapter. When you head into a fight like this, an evolution, a process. What kind of Carl Frampton can we expect to see? Are you adding new facets to your fighting armory, or is it about honing the skills that you've already kind of cultivated over an amateur and then a professional career that you've had?
Yeah, I think it's kind of honing them skills. I've been fighting my whole life. I've been fighting since I was 7, so I'm suddenly not going to change and turn into a different fighter. So it's about perfecting the things that I do well and trying to clean up the things that I don't do so well. So or get better at them anyway. So that's what it's about for me. But I think I genuinely believe this and I mean it. And I know that people say it all the time and fighters always say it, but I feel like you're going to see a performance that rolls back the years here on Saturday night.
I hate to put ideas in your head, Carl, and I know you, and I'll go back to it. I know you've been quizzed and asked this question over the last few days, but looking ahead to the future, I know it's the poison for fighters. You can't look too far ahead in your next session. But if that hand is raised come fight night, is it the end of the road for Carl Frampton, or is there other things you wish to achieve in an already incredible career?
How good would it? I've unified a division. I've unified the super bantamweight division. How good would it be to unify a second division? This fight for me, it's a huge fight and it's a legacy defining fight, like I said. But it's a shame that it's going to be in front of no crowd. And I would like to finish my career in front of a crowd, possibly in Belfast, Windsor Park again, which I've done. Yeah. But again, it's one fight at a time for me. And I've said that for the last number of years. I will always make a decision after this fight. So fully focused on Jamel Herring. And after this fight, we'll see what happens.
Can you give us a breakdown, Carl, of the training camp and kind of how you sort of move through the gears? And now what kind of period are you in right now, just a couple of days out? Is it very light work? Is it kind of almost meditative at this point? What sort of frame of mind are you in just as we approach fight night?
Yeah, so I've just completed my last session, really. It was an easy session. It was a kind of explosive, going through a little bit of tactics on the pads and doing things that we think are going to work on the night. Then a kind of explosive stuff with medicine balls and jumps. And I think that's where I'm at. The difference between me and Jamel Herring, though, at this stage is he's still having to train to make weight because he's such a big guy. So I'm training with like it's knowledgeable training. We're doing things easy, conserving energy, getting ready for the fight. Whereas the training he's doing right now is to make weight and solely to make weight. Like he got off a flight, 24 hours traveling from Colorado. He got off a flight at 10 p.m. and he was in the gym at 12 p.m. Like he's doing that because he has to do it. The first thing I would have been doing if I was him was going to bed. But I'm going to be a lot more relaxed this fight week than him. I'm not going to be concerned about making the weight. He will. Do
you feel better, Carl, at this weight than you did at super bantamweight and featherweight?
Yeah, massively. Super bantamweight, it was so hard. It was such a struggle for me. And I suppose when I was at super bantamweight, Jamel Herring right now is it's kind of similar for him to really kill yourself and to crush the weight. And featherweight, I could probably still make featherweight if I'm being honest. I'm not a natural super featherweight. I'm fighting out of a weight division, but I'm doing this to potentially become a great and a 3-weight world champion. So, but I'm feeling good. Being able to eat properly on fight week. I've just finished a meal. Being able to not have to train much, just walk around, drink water still. It's almost alien to what I used to have to do in my super bantamweight days. So yeah, it's all good.
Carl, I mean, you've talked, I think twice now, you've mentioned the word legacy. Even, win or lose, your place in the pantheon of British fighters is secure. I've loved watching you over the years. In a weird sort of way, as you get towards the twilight, 34 now, into a fight of this nature, does the pressure increase because you want to rubber stamp that legacy? Or in a lot of ways, are you a little bit more relaxed in your psychology because you have achieved so much in your career?
It's a difficult question. I think the pressure probably increases and because I put it on myself, because I want to win this fight. I think that, at the very start of my career, if someone had granted me a wish to become a world champion, you'll become a world champion, but you'll lose it in your first defense. I think I'd have probably taken that. So the things that I've gone on to do, I've been delighted with. I've achieved more than I ever imagined at the very start. But to become a three-weight world champion, that's huge. You're joining an elite list on the global stage of boxing. And that's what I want to do. I want to do it, and I genuinely believe that I will.
What would you rank, Carl, as your greatest night to date? And if you were to be victorious on Saturday, would that surpass it?
Yeah, I think, I'll answer that question first. I think that becoming a three-weight world champion will surpass anything that I've done in my career so far. But it's difficult to pick. That's going to be easy to say that at the end, fighting such a big guy. And that's going to be the one that I choose, I think, as the number one. But the things that I've done so far, it's hard to single one out. Winning my first world title at home in Belfast in a purpose-built arena, that was special. Going away and beating Santa Cruz against the odds, that was special. Unifying against Quig. These are all big nights. It's hard to kind of pick one out of that list.
And a third fight against Santa Cruz, is that a must? Is that you need to kind of have the third one, right?
I just don't think it'll happen, and it should have happened. But there's no. I can't take any fault here or any blame. I've chased this guy. I wanted to fight him. I've told him I'd go to LA for the third fight. But for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. And to be honest, I don't see it happening again. And it's a shame because it's one each. It deserved a trilogy, that fight. It deserved. It just deserved to happen. It deserved to have someone rubber stamp it, put the rubber stamp on it, and say, "I am better than he is," because I beat him twice and he beat me once. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening again.
Why, Carl? Not to pry too much. Is that your side, his side? Why?
It's all to do with promotional. I'm with Top Rank now. He's with Al Heyman. Notoriously, they don't really work with each other. I've kind of got sick of talking about that fight. I don't remember the last time I heard Leo Santa Cruz mention it.
Yeah.
So, if he wants to fight, he knows where I am, but I just don't see it happening.
Fair.
Of the you've only had 2 defeats in your career, Carl. Of the 2 that you've had, if you could do one of them over, Warrington or Santa Cruz, which one would you go back to, revisit?
Warrington, because it was a bad performance from me. I underestimated him. Not underestimated him. I underestimated his punching power. And I've been hit by some big guys before, and I just thought there's no way this guy can hurt me. And I quickly had my mind changed 30 seconds into the fight when I was almost gone. I done well to stay up, but the first kind of 3 rounds were torrid for me, and that kind of set the pace for the fight. And it was just my relaxed approach going into the fight, thinking it's going to be a hard fight, but not thinking he could hurt me. And I think if I went in with the right attitude, I could win that fight and win it convincingly as well. And that's not to be disrespectful to Josh. Me and him got on pretty well, but it still irks me, that one, that I lost it.
Carl, transport us there. I can only imagine what that feels like. You do all that preparation, you step into the ring, the bell goes, and your opponent comes out, and he brings an arsenal that you've not expected. Where does your mind go at that point? And maybe transport us back to that night. Where the heck was the head at that point?
I don't know. My head should have been hold on, relax, move about, try and recover again and get over the shot that I've just taken. But in hindsight, hindsight's a wonderful thing. That's what I should have done. But when you get hit like that, as a fighter, a lot of times all you want to do is just fire back. And my whole, everything went out the window there. I was just fighting. I wasn't boxing. I was just fighting like a street fight. Technique went out the window. Everything went out the window. But I was badly hurt. And it's something that really, really annoys me. And it was, I don't know. It just kind of still upsets me a little bit, that performance for myself.
Well, sorry, Rob.
Go on, Chris. No, go.
I was just going to say, we've spoken, Rob and I, we had Jeff Mayweather in with us last year, and we were talking about this mythical Floyd Mayweather unbeaten, and the fact that boxers have become obsessed, whether you want to call it stage managing certain careers, etc. Again, I take you back. When you suffered that first loss to Santa Cruz, you've built this incredible body of work. Do you sink into a form of depression? What did you mentally do in the kind of days and weeks after a first loss? Did it hurt as much as perhaps you expected it to? It's part and parcel of the fight game. We say that time and time again, but there is no doubt that the boxing game, certainly since Floyd came along, that role has just become that, I almost think, all-encompassing. I'd love to get your kind of views on that.
Yeah, look, after the Santa Cruz defeat, the first defeat of my career, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was certainly very down. And I think I have to thank my wife a lot for helping me out of that and kind of helped me pull myself together. You kind of notice, it's strange and it sounds a bit cliche, but in a situation like that, you know who really cares for you. And she was certainly one of them, and the rest of my family as well. But I think that what boxing could do, and take a leaf out of the book of MMA and UFC in particular, is, an O doesn't mean anything really. If you've been involved in a good fight, you'll get another good fight off the back of it. And after the Santa Cruz fight, I'd already beaten him once. I lost to him. I was disappointed, but I thought the third fight was coming next, and that's what kind of got me over it. And then it didn't happen, and I went different route, and I changed teams then after that. So very, very down after that, and it's hard to get over it. But I like to think that for a boxer anyway, I'm halfway intellectual, and I'm not too daft. And I think that I just reflected on it properly, and I lost at the very high end of sport in a very close fight. That's it. You win some and you lose some, and then you dust yourself off and you go again.
Carl, can boxing ever resolve this difficulty in getting two elite fighters together who are obviously somewhat wary of one another because of the damage that they could do to their respective legacies and records? We've seen so often. There was talk of a Wilder Joshua fight for ages, and it didn't happen, and you just felt that it was the promoters getting in the way. And obviously Pacquiao Mayweather fought way too late in their respective careers. We see it time and time again in boxing. Do you think that the sport will ever clean that up and actually cut through all the nonsense?
Well, I think it has to, for the benefit of the sport, and I wouldn't solely put the blame on the boxers. Actually, I wouldn't put much blame on the boxers. If AJ and Wilder could have fought, and there wasn't differences between their promotional stables, them two guys would have fought each other. I don't think they're afraid to fight each other. And it happens throughout the weight divisions. And we just need to see the promoters coming together, the top guys, Top Rank, Hearn, Al Heyman. These are the top guys in the world of boxing. And they need to work together. I think what MTK are doing now at the minute, they've got a hell of a lot of boxers on their book. They're signing a lot of American fighters as well, working with different promoters. And I think the bigger the involvement that they have, the more of these kind of cross-promotional fights you'll start to see.
Yeah, and again, we're building up. We've heard talk that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua could well be coming out to this part of the world. Of course, in the boxing game, everyone's got a view on that. Your own kind of views on what would happen when those two gladiators step inside the ring? I mean, a 2-fight deal has apparently been done, although we're still waiting for confirmation on that. Who would be your money on, Carl?
I think my money would be on Fury, but I'm not saying that. Well, I would be confident enough to put my money on Fury, but I don't think it's as one-sided as a lot of people think. And I've seen improvements in AJ, and I've seen that he's been working with Angel Fernandez, one of his new coaches, and he's been trying different things, all in preparation for this fight. He's been moving a lot more. He's been using his feet a lot more. He's been more explosive. And my mind may change as the fight if it finally gets done or the draw is closer. But at this minute, I would put my money on Fury, but a Fury points win.
Oh, so no knockout. Interesting.
Very, just really excited to see that fight happen. Just curious, Carl, to get your take on, and I remember watching a podcast you did recently where you said you would never be a boxing trainer or a boxing manager, and yet you obviously got a huge passion for the sport. You've lived and breathed it your entire life. What's your reasoning for that, and what's your kind of relationship with boxing now, would you say, and the whole kind of community of boxing?
I love boxing, and I would a lot. It's given me the life that it's allowed me to live a comfortable life. But I've also had some very bad times in boxing as well. I think that I would stay away from it initially at the very start, I would never train fighters, because I look at what Jimmy Moore and Nigel Travis do as my trainers, and they've got a number of fighters who they look after. But they're out here with me in Dubai. After this fight, I'll go home and relax and chill out with my wife and kids, but they've got to go home and train the next guys who are getting ready for a fight. So they literally don't have any time. So after this, I want to just dedicate all my time to my wife and my kids, because I've spent so much time away from them. Managing potentially is something that I would do, but not right now. Maybe in years down the line in the future. Bit of punditry, maybe. I've done bits and pieces for Sky and BT, 5 Live and TalkSport as well. I get decent feedback, and if you walked into a job like that, then you're singing.
Absolutely, you are. And listen, Carl, don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you've obviously got preparations, etc. Well documented, the kind of coming together, if you will, the falling out with your former management team. I'm not going to delve too much into that. But when you look at the kind of management, you're now with MTK and you're with Top Rank as well, putting on this great event. When you look at management of boxers across the board, and perhaps over the lifespan of your career, are fighters being better looked after than perhaps they were, I'm thinking back 10, 15, 20 years ago?
I don't know. I think each case has to be individualized. And I know right now I'm being very well looked after. I know that previously I don't believe that I was, but I am right now. I'm involved in more decisions and things that go on in my career, rather than just being them just happening to me. You know what I mean? So I'm involved in every step of the way. And a bit of advice I would give any young fighter coming through the ranks is always have a good lawyer.
Just on that, Carl, just on that, and again, I don't want to pry too much. Is that out of design, you and our age thing? You mentioned there that you have now got more control over decisions that are being made. Hindsight, you said it earlier, a wonderful thing. When you were younger, was that a choice that you made to focus on just fighting, or were you kind of cajoled into maybe perhaps thinking that way?
No, I just focused on the boxing, but I'm a kid from a working class family who have no idea about business and how the professional boxing landscape works at all. And I was just a kid, and I literally done what anybody told me to do. And I had full faith in people that were around me. And that's it. So I don't really want to dwell on it too much. That's a part of my career that's been and gone, and I'm glad it's gone. But I hope that I will have learned a lot from that part of my career.
Has boxing rid itself of some of the corruption we've seen in the past, Carl, would you say? Has it evolved? Has it moved on in these last 10, 15 years?
I think it's moved on a little bit, but I don't think it's rid itself from corruption. And you see some terrible decisions still. You see some, and not just decisions in fights, but also decisions in getting people into positions to fight as mandatory champions and stuff. And look, it's not like it was in the 40s and 50s when the mafia were running it in America. But I would say that corruption, there's still a little bit of it, and but there isn't a lot of other sports too. So yeah, it's weeding its way out, I suppose.
What is the answer, Carl? We've spoken about it, at length in our show about what the answer is to ridding boxing of its ills. Certainly from a judging perspective. I mean, Christ, Robbie and I, you can see from our physiques, we've not fought professionally. Well, Robbie's an amateur boxer, in fairness, although he doesn't look like it. But we've talked about what is the answer? Is it a fourth judge? Is it taking 5 judges in the 3 best scores? Is it getting stats and CompuBox to be more? What is the answer from a professional boxer standpoint?
I don't know the answer. I really don't. But what a thing that I would like to put into place is, if there's decisions made that, we were watching a fight on the TV and sometimes a judge scores it 10 rounds the opposite way to what you see. If these blatant things continue to happen, I think maybe a warning for a judge first time, and ask, brought into a meeting and ask, have you seen this fight the way you've scored it? And get rid of them then after that, if they can't answer the questions. And
yeah,
I really don't know. But maybe a system where, you get kind of one chance, and even one chance isn't enough, because one chance when the judge gets it so wrong, that could be the end of a kid's career. So I think when they make, sometimes fights are hard to score, aren't they, when the rounds are close? But I think when someone gets it so wrong and you're starting to question, do they actually know what they're watching? That's when you need to get them out, and they can never judge or referee a fight again.
Well, listen, Carl, conscious of time, we can't thank you enough. I just want to take it full circle. Behind closed doors entirely, I've been getting inundated with messages over the course of the past few days. What do we know of this fight at Caesars Blue Water this coming weekend in Dubai? It's a monster fight. It's going to be beamed across the globe. Are you fighting to no one but your coaching staff?
I think there's a few people, a few VIP guests, I think, but there may be, I'd say there's going to be less than 100 people in this room. So, you know, it's disappointing, but there's nothing I can do about that. I'm just looking forward to the fight now and putting on a show. I'm
looking forward to seeing said show, Carl. Listen, bless you, my man. It is a legacy-defining fight. You've said it yourself. It's about putting an exclamation mark on an already incredible career. We wish you the best of luck. We will be watching from afar, Carl, and hoping that it's not the last time that not only have we seen you in a boxing, or it will be on Saturday, but maybe, just maybe, we'll get to see you out here in Dubai again as well. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, boys. Thank you. Thanks.